The storm only lasted minutes, but it caused enormous damage to the city of Utrecht. Now it seems there may be an explanation. It took barely 15 minutes. An intense and powerful, but brief, storm swept across northwest Europe one summer's evening almost 350 years ago. It left a social and architectural imprint on the city of Utrecht that is felt to this day. A new study offers the best explanation yet for exactly what form that devastating storm took. The late 17th century was a challenging time for the Netherlands. The Dutch found themselves in a war against several foreign forces, including the French and English. Boats in Amsterdam were plucked from the water and transported over several fields before crashing down. The year 1672, in particular, is an infamous one in Dutch history. It is known as the disaster year because it marked an invasion of the Dutch Republic by forces from France, England, and region of what is now Germany. The French took all the money there was. Utrecht was left completely broke, says Gerard van der Schiller at the Royal Netherlands Meteorological Institute in Delft. The city was left uniquely ill-prepared for a major natural disaster, which is unfortunate given that 2 years later exactly such a disaster struck. Wednesday, 1 August in 1672 was a typically warm and humid summer's day in northwest Europe. Towards the end of the day, thunderstorms developed again, not a typical weather for a humid summer's day, but the storms escalated and escalated. By about 6 p.m., a devastating tempest had begun, tearing its way north across the region, leaving a wake of extensive destruction in its wake. One church ordinarily had 2 towers, its theaters, but the tops were blown off in the storm. Dozens of eyewitness accounts from the time captured the scenes. According to one newspaper, in Brussels, hailstones fell which were as large as marbles. Many trees were removed from the earth, but also many houses for kids were overthrown. In Strasbourg, hailstones fell as large as babies' heads. A Dutch merchant named Jerry's Sons Coach penned a poem in the aftermath, describing how boats in Amsterdam were plucked from the water and transported over several fields before crashing down. Coach also relates the story of one farmer who could not recognize his own field after the storm had passed. The trees that bordered the land were gone, and so was the church tower from the nearby villages. Utrecht seemed to have borne the brunt to the damage. Even to this day, the effects of the storm are visible. The dome cathedral is the most obvious site of the storm, says Van der Schiller. The central part of the building was flattened by the tempest. There is now a huge gap between the tower and the court. They described how it only took 15 minutes for it to pass. Many more Utrecht churches were damaged too. Some have no towers, which is strange. One church originally had 2 towers. It still does, but the top were blown off in the storm, so the 2 towers have not similar anymore. But the eyewitness accounts also make 2 more points very clear. One is that the damage was unusually localized. Buildings in one street may have been flattened, while those in the next escaped by significant damage. The other point is that the storm was very short-lived. There are several accounts of farmers who took cover as they saw this frontal system coming, which would have been very black, says Van der Schiller. They described how it only took 15 minutes for it to pass. Then, when they stood up, the sky was completely clear again. Back in 1980, meteorologists concluded that the damage in Utrecht must have been the result of a tornado, which can tear through an area quickly and leave a localized part of the destruction behind. But Van der Square and his colleague, Rob Groenland, think there is now a better explanation for the storm of 1674. They detail their research in the journal Natural Hazards and Earth System Science. The problem is that a tornado is too localized and too confined to account for all of the damage seen in Utrecht. It might account for destruction in one particular district of the city, but it cannot explain why there were several hotspots of strong activity across a wide region of northwest Europe. But a particular form of storm system called a bow echo can. Bow echoes are relatively new to meteorologists. The term was first used about 40 years ago, and as weather radars has become more widely used, bow echoes have become easier to identify and study. Small differences in wind strength can generate small whirlwinds. Bow echoes are brought as straight weather front bullshit, in fact, which can be tens to hundreds of kilometers long. They pass over an area in a matter of a few hours at most, and they are associated with strong and localized gusts of wind, called straight-line winds. The winds are related to downdraft winds that move very quickly toward the Earth's surface at great speed. In the context of a bow echo, the winds flow parallel to Earth's surface in the direction of the frontal system once they reach the ground. We have been able to reconstruct the shape of the front by using historical observation, says Van der Square. For instance, eyewitness accounts suggest the central part of the front passed over Utrecht slightly ahead of the flank, which fits with the idea that the front was slightly curved into a bow shape. By chance, the storm happens to be one of the rare events and is well documented. Within straight-line winds, small differences in wind strength can generate small whirlwinds. In line with this, there is evidence of the whirlwinds in Utrecht. Painting of the destruction so that the nave of the Dome Cathedral and some church towers toppled in a northerly direction, the way that the front was traveling, but others fell to the west. Perpendicular to the direction of the front, they can only have been brought down by wind producing strong westerly gusts. So far, everything we have from the eyewitness accounts is in line with the hypothesis that this was a bow echo, says Van der Square. This sort of work has the potential to be valuable to the authorities in the Netherlands, say Van der Square. They are keen to ensure that buildings and other structures are strong enough to withstand rain but severe storms. We don't have measurement of these extreme events. We only have 100 years of measurement. But by chance, this storm happened to be one of those rare events that is well documented. Understanding exactly how the storm of 1674 developed and carefully documenting the resulting damage could prove useful for designing and building structures that can sufficiently robust against similar storm events. But beyond that, there is a degree to which this sort of scientific investigation is interesting just for curiosity's sake. The storm is an important, if sometimes overlooked, chapter in the history of Utrecht. Because the storm came just 2 years after disaster year, there was little money to pay for clear-up operations. The Dome Cathedral remains in ruin. For decades, The ruin became a place where homosexuals could meet, says Van der Square. More than 50 years later, the Dutch began persecuting such homosexual activity. The trial began in Utrecht at the behest of Joseph Wild, the man in charge of the sacristy of the cathedral. So, then homosexual behavior was decried as coming from the city of Utrecht, say Van der Square. The Dutch word Utrechtenaar becomes synonymous with homosexuality. That's still the case today and is related to this storm, although not many people realize this. Join over 6 million BBC Earth fans by liking yours on Facebook or follow us on Twitter and Instagram.